it out at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hello and welcome to Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. This is the live Google Hangouts version on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/spiritual show. Thanks so much for being with us today. This is my co-host, Chris Gaskin.
Greetings.
And we are speaking today with Dr. Stan Tatkin. He is the author of Wired for Love, How Understanding Your Partner's Brain and Attachment Style Can Help You Diffuse Conflict and Build a Secure Relationship. And Dr. Tatkin is a clinician, researcher, teacher, and developer of a psychobiological approach to couple therapy, also known as PACT. He has a clinical practice in Calabasas, California, and he developed the PACT Institute for the purpose of training other psychotherapists to use this method in their clinical practice. In addition, Dr. Tatkin teaches and supervises family medicine residents at Kaiser Permanente, Woodland Hills, California, and is an assistant clinical professor at the UCLA David Geffen School of Medicine, Department of Family Medicine. And Dr. Tatkin is on the board of directors of Lifespan Learning Institute and serves as a member on Relationships First Council, which is a nonprofit organization founded by Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt. Welcome to the show, Dr. Tatkin.
Hi, guys. I'm so sorry you had to read that whole thing. I should have told you, you could have done just a quarter of that.
Oh, that's okay. Everyone, you have so many qualifications everyone should know, and you've been on the show a few times. Thank you, as always, for your time, because it's so valuable, and I really appreciate it. And actually, we mentioned this in the last broadcast, but we had to restart. So this is the guy who, in our last interview, I had just started dating, and he wouldn't call me on the phone. He only wanted to text and Facebook.
Millennials, right?
You are a millennial,
Millennials, yes.
yeah.
But here he is.
And here he is, still alive and well, and we're together.
And we actually know that Chris exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real person.
Yeah.
And we also listened to your audio program, Your Brain on Love. We listened together.
Yes.
And we've learned a lot. And
is that how you spent your night?
Not last night, no.
Okay.
We listened actually on, he brought me to, he's a stand-up comedian, and
Yeah.
he had a show in Calgary. We took the bus there, the Greyhound. It was like, what, 16 hours?
It's a long bus trip.
Each way. And so we listened periodically throughout the trip and talked about it, and
Oh, that's nice.
it's good. Yeah.
I'd love to see your work, Chris, sometime.
It's okay. I'm working on it.
He has a YouTube channel also.
Yeah.
He's good at stand-up. That's how I met him, was at the comedy club.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Were you sitting in the front row?
No,
but I organized meetup groups, and I brought him, and then there were singles groups, so I would invite, that's the word, invite some of the comedians to the after party, and he came, and I wasn't trying to hit on him.
I know that,
but
it sounded like fun, so I decided to come along.
Oh, that's neat. That's so sweet. You met at a comedy club.
Yeah.
Did she heckle you, by the way?
I really should.
Yeah.
That'd be a great story.
Just in actual life. But
Just in actual life, you heckle her.
I
love
try to be on good behavior.
it.
Well, Dr. Tatkin, in your book, Wired for Love, and in your audio program, Your Brain on Love, you talk about the different attachment styles and how to create a secure, functioning relationship and a couple bubble.
Right.
So maybe if people are just hearing about you for the first time, you can give us a quick little summary about what secure functioning means.
Secure functioning basically means that the couple, you guys, any other couple, is a real two-person psychological system, meaning you base your relationship on true mutuality, good for you, good for me, good for us, and that you're fundamentally collaborative. That's the sign of secure functioning, is collaboration. You operate according to principles that protect the safety and security of your relationship, because you know that if you mess with that, it's harder to do life. So secure functioning couples are kind of in the foxhole together. They take care of each other. They have each other's backs. They're experts on each other. They know each other better than they know themselves. They're better at the other person than they are even at their work. They protect each other in public and private. They're the first to know. They're the go-to people. I think you get the idea. They basically are creatures that protect each other from the environment, which is harsh and unpredictable, and they provide cover for each other. And this is part of the way that they are able to survive and thrive.
Awesome.
I love how cute she is.
Aw,
Me
so
too.
cute. So Dr. Tatkin, one of the most important things in maintaining a couple bubble is not threatening the relationship, not threatening to break up. But what about for Chris and myself? We haven't decided if this is going to be permanent or not.
Yeah.
We're kind of at different stages in our lives. So if
You're
we're not,
you're auditioning.
we are,
Yeah, I'd say so.
yeah.
That's-
So what do we do if we're not, we haven't decided yet? So I'm kind of like, well, I'm not sure if this is going to be a forever relationship, but how do we maintain our couple bubble while we're figuring that out?
You do things for each other that we're talking about. You present in such a way where it's you're protecting each other, you're getting to know each other really well, you're paying attention to one another really well, you're able to handle conflicts well, right? You're able to repair things, you lead with relief, you fix things quickly. The first thing you do is relieve your partner. Basically, you start by putting the relationship first and seeing if you can do it. And you're also trying to find out whether you're on the same page with regard to things that are really important in the long run. Like, what do you guys do for each other you couldn't pay somebody else to do? What makes you guys special? What are you guys going to actually serve? And these answers are kind of important, right? Because in the beginning, it's all sorts of other things, right? It's infatuation, it's exciting, it's novel, it's scary, it's weird, all these things. But eventually, you're going to get to know each other. It takes about a year, generally speaking, to do that. And that's when the real fun begins. When you start to depend on each other, that's when, for everybody, our earliest fears start to arise. And these are dormant in the beginning in the dating period. Yeah. So there's more to come.
Well, Dr. Tatkin, you mentioned actually what purpose we're going to serve in the world. And for me, like, that's really important. And I would love to do that with Chris. But I kind of feel, and I hope that I'm not calling you out, or
Okay.
just tell me, you can punish me later.
It's good. It's good. You always check with each other, because your audience and me, we're outsiders. You guys are insiders.
Exactly. Well, but one of the things that I notice, and I think this is fairly typical of male-female relationships, is that the woman is the one kind of trying to figure everything out and really trying to build the relationship. And Chris has been amazing and supportive and so willing. And yet I feel sometimes that I'm kind of just dragging him along.
Literally, are you dragging him like by his collar?
Sometimes.
Chris, do you feel dragged along?
I don't feel that way, but I'm not the greatest at expressing enthusiasm for certain things. I always like coming up with like ideas and plans. I'm also not the greatest at that, but I mean, that's kind of beside the point. But I don't feel like I'm being dragged along.
Right. So both of you have fears, ideas, things from the past. Don't forget, we're all memory, right? 90% of our day is memory driven. And so you're remembering as you get close, you're remembering everything. You guys are proxies for everybody who came before. So you check these things out just to make sure you're right, because the chances are pretty high that you're going to be wrong. You know, she thinks that she's dragging you along and you don't really feel that way. So, right?
Yeah.
So this is how you kind of work things out, but you make sure that you understand each other, that you don't take for granted how incredibly flawed human communication is.
Now, I'm also wondering, in Wired for Love and in your Brain on Love, you basically explain that there's 3 types of people, and it's usually a combination of like island, wave, and anchor. And if we were to describe ourselves, I believe Marie would say she's more of a wave, and I would say I'm definitely more of an island. And I'm wondering if that might have something to do with that as well.
Viva la différence, right? It's cats and dogs. It doesn't really matter if you are an island or a wave. So let's describe it for a second, what it is, or define it. So in the attachment world, basically, we're either secure in our primary relationship, starting from the very beginning, or we're some shade of insecure, right? Some shade of insecure. And what that means is that the baby, in this case, feels secure with the primary caregivers in such a way that resources aren't being used for anxiety, right? And so the baby can develop, and the baby can do all the things the baby needs to do because the baby is secure in that relationship. That relationship is a tether, basically, to safety and security. So let's fast forward. If you came from a relationship where relationships came first, fully collaborative relationships in the family, there was no punishment for leaving, no punishment for clinging, then you may be secure or an anchor, and you have more flexibility. You're not as afraid of things happening to you as you are if you are more insecure. So as you get to the insecure sides, you have a clinging side, a side where the culture encourages the baby to cling and to stay dependent. And you have a distancing side where the family culture encourages the baby to be self-sufficient, independent, and not very needy. In other words, take care of yourself, because we're not going to, and we don't do neediness here. So we call the distancing group islands and the clinging group waves, and they're both afraid of something. The island is afraid of losing the self, of having his or her things taken, stolen, robbed, and being used. And the wave is afraid of abandonment, of punishment, withdrawal, rejection. And because these two people have fears, they behave in certain ways that trigger threat in each other. They don't mean to do this. They're just acting according to the way they have experienced relationship. There's not a problem at all as long as both partners, you guys, really understand the other person, why they are the way they are, and not take it so personally, and know what to do, how to work with that person, right? That's really the thing. You guys picked each other properly because you recognized each other. You found each other familiar in some way. That's how we pair bond. That means you guys are more alike than you're not. In this area, you may have certain things that are different, such as a need for space and distancing, a fear of being engulfed or smothered, or a fear of not being wanted or loved or taken care of, and you may act in a certain way that trigger the threat of the other. So how do islands and waves get along? By understanding who they are and knowing how to deal with that animal. And also taking responsibility for who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think Chris has done such a good job. I mean, when our last interview, he wouldn't call me on the phone or anything. And one of the things that happened, though, is...
Just kidding, Chris.
No, my parents. That makes sense. It was before they got married. They were kids. They were kids.
Well, I also know Marie is someone who gets very close, loves to chat, loves to talk, is really very related, and right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
I love that about her.
Okay, good. Well, I just wanted to give him credit for how much work. Well, we've both really grown a lot in this relationship in the last few months. It's been tremendous, and I'm still wanting to have a future plan. And you had confirmed that you don't feel dragged along, but I still feel like I'm the one doing all the work. And
have you bought your funeral plots yet?
Oh my God, you're joking, right?
Yeah, I'm joking. But that's real commitment, headstone. I'm amazed how you picked it. Your hair color is so similar.
I know, we could be siblings, or
Hey,
oh my gosh,
don't
no.
say that. What's the matter with
you?
you?
They don't want to say that because then it's incest. Yeah, but go on.
No, on Mother's Day, someone thought I was his mom.
Aw.
Oh,
Yeah, he's 28.
Yeah.
He's almost 29,
How old are
but
you, Marie?
37.
Okay. You
Yeah.
say that with a quiet voice.
I don't usually date younger men, but he's so cute. I can't help it.
He is adorable. You guys are sort of within the cohort, right? You're sort of within the cohort.
Yeah.
And besides, men die earlier, so you're good.
That's what I said. That's what I was like, hey, the way I'm planning it is we'll
Yeah.
both be on our deathbeds together. So
There you go.
Sweet. But how, Dr. Tatkin, how important is it though that he come up with a plan? Like, he's going to be on the road doing his comedy and everything, and I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to even fit into that, because I like some adventure, but I kind of I don't know, like.
Well, he's starting his career, and this is one of those careers that takes him to a lot of places, especially at night, where there are a lot of people around. And so you guys have to think about this, whether you can tolerate it. There's no fault if you can't. But he's got to do his career. You also have to feel secure. And so you're going to have to figure out how you're going to do this. I mean, we live in a time where we have social media. You can text each other, you can WhatsApp each other, you can send pictures to each other, you can stay in contact really nicely. So you've got that going for you. But it's definite for sure that the kind of business he's in, he's going to do a lot of stuff where he's going to be on the road, unless, Chris, you decide not to do it anymore.
No, that's not
That's not happening right now.
But with all of the information, Wired for Love is full of exercises as well, and Your Brain on Love is what, 4 CDs, 5 CDs? It's a lot of information.
Yes.
Yeah.
6 CDs? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what are a couple of the most important skills that couples need to start with? Because obviously you can't learn everything all at once.
No. I think that idea of what the relationship should be, not what you like, and not what, whether you have things in common, that's very nice, but that doesn't always last. You need to come to some idea of what the relationship should be. What do you want in the long run, and whether you guys agree on things. I mean, you don't do this on a first date because that scares people away. But, as you guys are going, what are your principles? What are your values? What do you believe in? That would bind you together, that would make sense of you as a couple, right? Because as a couple, you're a unit, you represent something to the public, and if you ever have children, you represent something to the children. You're a mini society that operates on rules of social justice. So being clear about what's fair, just, and sensitive, good for both of you, I think is an important first step, right? What do you guys stand for? And these are ideas that usually, come with a phrase like, this is what we do and this is what we don't do. And this is mutually agreed upon, right? It's not a finger wagging. It's like, these are things we bought into, we believe in, like we tell each other everything. We decided we're just going to do that because why not? And because you both buy into that idea, it overrides the times you don't want to say things because you might be afraid of what the other person will say, or they may rain on your parade. But the overarching principle is we tell each other everything. And so that, I think, those kind of ideas is what keeps you safe and stable through time. It can't be just based on love and being in love and passion and stuff like that. That's not gonna do it in the long run.
Well, that's my concern, because Chris mentions our chemistry a lot, and we do have great chemistry, and I enjoy it. But that's that really only lasts long enough to make a baby, and until it's walking, right?
Until it's walking. As soon as it starts walking, you go dead inside. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No,
you're on your own, baby.
Yeah, you're on your own. Right. No. It's no. First of all, you have a baby, and the baby is coming to your party. And you guys should always be girlfriend and boyfriend if you decide to stay together. Your girlfriend and boyfriend first, your husband and wife second, and mother and father third, right? Because children depend on the two of you being in love. They depend on you being good managers of each other, that you're taking good care of each other. If you're not, it sucks for the kids. So yeah, the passion and that being in love can be maintained as long as you know how to do that. And you do that by paying attention, being present in the eyes, in the face, you know, eye to eye, skin to skin, right? And you do that enough because we fall in love through the eyes. You know, love is up close, lust is at a distance. And, you know, we fall in love with puppies, kittens, and babies through the eyes, and partners fall in love that way too. So as long as you don't take that for granted, and that automatic brain that we have that just does things automatically by memory can only be offset by paying close attention.
Thank you, Dr. Tatkin.
You're welcome.
All right. Well,
You guys are adorable.
Oh, thank you.
You guys
I know
are
people keep saying,
Yeah.
"Ew, it's so gross. You're so cute." Yeah.
That's not gross.
One of my friends, wow, you guys are adorable. Makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be a guy.
No,
no.
no.
Oh.
Right? Female comedian?
Yeah. Female comedians. So she's pretty much a dude. No,
Pretty much a dude, right?
I wanted to actually ask you, because we talk about the wave, or sorry, the anchor, which is the secure attachment
secure attachment style.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the wave and the island. And I was talking with a friend the other day, and he mentioned phrasing it more as love addicted and love avoidant. But it sounded like kind of the same thing. So I'm wondering why, because when I heard that, I was like, oh, that sounds really bad. Like,
it's not accurate.
Okay.
I can see why somebody would turn it into that. But in actuality, insecures are afraid of similar things. They're afraid of abandonment of some kind. And the addiction part, no. The addiction part is there in the beginning, by the way. When we fall in love, we're infatuated. The kind of love we experience isn't really a feeling, it's an addiction. It's called exciting love, which is something, by the way, you can regenerate over and over again by some of the ways I talked about. But the wave is afraid of being left, afraid of being abandoned, of rejected, of being punished. And so the wave can often become extremely ambivalent and rejecting once they get what they want. I often think of the wave as being allergic to hope, and the island being addicted to alone time. They both have their certain fears and their ways of dealing with stress and dealing with moving toward and away from somebody. And this is not so much a style as it is coming from a culture. This is in the family. This is the way we do things in our family. And so kids are simply adapting to the culture they are brought into. It's all that is. It's not a personality. It's not really a style, but it is predictable because of what they're afraid of, unless that gets repaired through other relationships. So people can become an anchor. They can become anchor-ish, certainly, through a good, secure, functioning relationship. That's definitely possible.
Well, that's actually one of the reasons that we got together, because I was like, no, you're younger than me, and everything was just, you're adorable. But, so I said, I was trying to push him away. I was like, look, I'm really clingy. I'm really needy. You don't want to be with me. I have issues. And he said to me, well, what if I can help you with that?
And you've helped me too.
By the way, you'll only be as needy, Marie, as Chris becomes distant. You'll only be as distant, Chris, as she becomes too clinging. This has to do with a threat reaction. It's not really who you guys are. I just want to make that clear, that we act and react to one another. And all of this is done very quickly. Real time is very fast, and we just react reflexively. So it looks like something, but it's not really that. So you become more needy, Marie, as Chris acts like he isn't. And Chris, you become more autonomous and distant as you feel that she's encroaching too much. Does that make sense? But basically, it's partly illusion. And one thing you should know, Marie, and you need to know, is who Chris really is, and that he is as needy as you, even if he doesn't admit it. This is important. Otherwise, you separate each other as being somewhat different, and you're not. You just think of things and operate and defend yourselves differently. That's it. Do you follow? So
Yeah.
Marie, it would be important for you to know Chris as Chris, and what makes him tick. And if he is an island, why is he that way? And you should be able to then predict him and know how to help him. It's not about you being needy, right? That's a misunderstanding. And Chris, if you are an island, it's not about your autonomy and independence that's being threatened, really. It's your ability to be yourself fully in a relationship without fear of the same thing happening that happened when you were young, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're doing is we're remembering what happened and in our way, and we're protecting ourselves from it happening again. And much of this is done without awareness.
All right. Well, I just want to say again that we are talking with Dr. Stan Tatkin. He is the author of Wired for Love, How Understanding Your Partner's Brain and Attachment Style Can Help You Diffuse Conflict and Build a Secure Relationship. And we also listened to his amazing program, Your Brain on Love, and the new book is coming out January 2016, Wired for Dating.
Wired for Dating, yes. This is to help people find a secure relationship, secure functioning relationship, and how to vet partners, right? New partners.
Great. And Chris, you wanted to ask something, right?
Well, I was going to ask, give us an example of what do you mean by like vetting?
Vetting?
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, let's say either of you and I meet, we're nervous, right? And we're thinking about ourselves. We're not really paying attention on the outside. We're concerned about how we look, what we're doing. And we're extremely vulnerable to making social errors because part of our brain that prevents us from doing something stupid actually makes us do something stupid. So there's a lot going on in the beginning. And what we want is for people to keep their eyes open, to pay attention, not to be obnoxious about asking personal questions, but to really look and to really see who they're with, over a short period of time, paying attention, looking for signs, signals, getting information about whether this person is safe or not safe, right? Well, this person is really not your cup of tea in terms of they don't believe in secure functioning. These are things you can find out without being intrusive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other part of it is making sure you take your person around to your male and female peeps, because that is an important thing to offset the drugs you're on when you are infatuated with somebody, because you are in fact on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And these drugs want you to procreate. That's nature's remedy, nature's love potion. And that same love potion, that neurochemical transformation that goes on in your brain, makes it hard for you to make good judgments. Nature doesn't care about that.
I would probably agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Tatkin has done lots and lots of research and everything. That's another thing I want to say is that the work that you've done is not like some dating coaches are just like, oh, this is what I've observed about the world, so this must be true. You have actually done a lot of research, and your work and your writing is all based on solid research and evidence.
Yeah, it is. All these folksy terms really speak to the science that's underneath it, and that includes brain development and wonky things like arousal regulation and neurobiological deficits. These are the things that we wouldn't talk about because people would just go, "What?" But that's the stuff under the hood. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it really is fascinating stuff personally, but I totally understand when you start talking scientifically when people kind of just roll their eyes.
Yeah, because it's unusable. It's good for research, it's good for scientists, but it's unusable in day-to-day life.
But I have really liked the way that you do bring it in with your products. I think it's I think they're very valuable products.
Thank you. Thank you. So you guys getting married?
Well,
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I laugh right there. No.
oh, well, that's actually one of the things, because we were talking about how we're at different stages in our lives.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that he is probably going to live as long as me if he plays his cards right. And but because we're
That
at
made it
different,
sound like you were going to kill me, by the way. I hope you... Oh.
but if he plays his cards right. But my concern though is that we have had such different, like I lived on my own since I was 15, so I just feel like in the world, and my way of being in the world is just so much different, and I don't know if I can wait. I hope this isn't insulting, babe.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for him to catch up, or will he ever, or it's a concern for me. How important is that?
Well, that remains to be seen, and that's between the two of you and what you can tolerate. You know, you guys are kind of stretching the boundaries in terms of cohort. That's 10-year difference, and the thing that you would come up with would be stage of life, things going back to TV shows and movies and songs, music and stuff like that. Things that separate you a bit, right? But there are plenty of people who have, different configurations of younger, older, doesn't matter, and they do just fine. So I think really it just comes down to, whether the age difference intrudes too much. But don't forget, it's not just the age difference. You guys could be the same age, and those things could still happen. Cultural differences, ideological differences. The way you do business as a couple may be different. So it's not just the age thing.
Okay. But before you were talking about how it is important to have common goals and common values as a
Yes,
couple.
That's right.
So
and those things, by the way, transcend personality. They transcend certain details like where do you want to live. These are principles that everybody in the end want. We all basically agree on certain things, and some of those things you might not agree on depending on stage of life, right? So the older we get, certain things become more important. The younger we are, other things are more important that no longer become important as we get older. So there can be that, right? Things we care about because we just had more time on the planet, more loss, more experience. But the thing you described could happen, Marie, even if you were exactly the same age. Maybe you left home at 15, and maybe he left home when he was 26. Well, that's a difference, right? Culturally, or maybe he came from a very wealthy family and you came from a dirt poor family. That's another difference. It depends on how well you guys are able to meet in the middle and have common goals, common ideals.
Okay.
Because everybody is actually different, right? You have different brains.
And then what about the importance of shared interests? Like our hobbies are, well, I don't really have hobbies. I'm just very social. But Chris likes to play video games and he's very into movies. Like I feel like he could talk for hours with some of my actor friends.
He's a man after my own heart.
You guys could talk after the show maybe. But I'm just like, he'll be like, oh, this actor's name, and I have no idea who he's talking about. And I try to be interested, even though I'm really not. And how important is it to have shared interests?
Well, I think it's important to the extent that you care about the other person's interests, right? Because if you dismiss it, that's tantamount to dismissing the person. So the same thing when you have children, you're going to have to live in their world a little bit. They can't always do what you want them to do and play the games you want to play. You have to go where their interest is if you want a relationship. So in that sense, you get to expand, Marie, in learning new things because Chris is in your life. Chris gets to expand because you're in his life. You do different things than he does. And again, this is the purpose of partnership. We pick somebody who's able to do things that we really don't do very well, and that's great, right? And this becomes very complementary in that sense.
Yeah, I feel we do a pretty good job doing that too. So
yeah, we try to be respectful of each other's interests, even though we can't necessarily always relate.
That
Yeah,
means she doesn't like pro wrestling. That's what that means. So.
I watch it with you sometimes, and I even talk about those guys.
but do you do pro wrestling with each other? Do you wrestle rough and tumble?
Sometimes.
We might like that.
Rough and tumble is very good. The things that are going to matter is whether the two of you feel respected by the other person, admired by the other person, wanted by the other person, understood by the other person. Those are the things that are going to be real key. The rest of it is fluff.
I think for the most part, we do all of that really well. Understanding each other is a challenge sometimes.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we've gotten a lot better. And I mean, I have to commend Chris and his willingness to listen to 6 CDs on relationships, because that's not really very interesting to a lot of, he could be watching pro wrestling
I
instead.
know.
So
Did you look over on the bus every now and then and see him like in a noose hanging himself? Blowing his brains out? 6 CDs? Really?
I waited until she wasn't looking away.
okay.
That's not true.
I'm curious. Okay, so if he is an island, which has the fear of engulfment, and let's say we do end up getting married, that changes things, right?
What does it change?
Well, isn't that when a relationship becomes like more permanent and real? That's when the fears really show themselves, don't they? Like,
well, marriage can be the thing that flips the switch, but for some people it's living together. For some people it's just, being in a committed relationship. Who knows what it's going to be, but as soon as you start to feel that you're permanent, this is a subjective experience, that's when this starts to come, because you're beginning to depend on another person. And that's really what's triggering this. The memory of depending on another person, or being dependent upon. For a lot of people, this can bring up all sorts of memories. Some are not very good. And so it's your job to repair these, right? You guys are going to understand what these fears are, and much of the time you're not going to amplify them, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to do things to reduce those fears and reduce threat. And that's something you're going to learn by doing. Keep in mind, you're in each other's care. When you're a couple, you're not in your own care. That's the way to think of it. And this is an additive thing. You don't really lose anything when you pair bond, when you couple. Only insecures fear they're going to lose something, but you actually really don't. You guys are supposed to be exactly who you are in the relationship. And if you are taking off the table threats to the relationship itself, then you duke it out.
And I would assume, talking about those memories, those would probably be more subconscious thoughts than actual conscious thoughts. Would that be correct?
Most of the time, they're reflexive and unconscious, but eventually it becomes very conscious.
Okay.
Dr. Tatkin, sorry, go ahead.
You have to understand that real time is terribly fast, so most of the time we don't know what we're doing or why. And when pressed for an answer, we make it up, and that's what couples do. It's happening so fast, you're reacting automatically, and then you are held accountable for it, and you yourself don't even know why you did something. And this is where people get into trouble. They start to make stuff up because they don't know.
Yeah, we do that.
Everyone does that.
There's another thing that, I mean, I'm looking for a permanent lifetime partnership.
No, really? You?
Yeah. But and this has been something that's been really, for the last few years, I've been putting a lot of energy and focus into it. And when I'm able to just be in the moment, God, I'm going to get all teary. When I'm able to be in the present moment with Chris, it's the best relationship I've ever had.
Yes.
And then I start thinking about the future.
That's when you're not in the moment, though.
And then I want to bolt because of the differences in our lives.
Right. That's where you stay present. That's where you stay in the present. You think too much. You're going into the future. That's what happens, right? The future hasn't happened yet. So you just stay in the present. And by that, you stay in the person's eyes, because Marie, it would be predictable that you would obsess or perseverate over the next shoe that's going to drop. And since that is something that's predictable, I would just brush it off, brush it aside, and then put yourself back into his eyes. Or tell him, right now, my mind is going into the future, and he can say, stop that.
Okay. But if we have different, I mean, even our financial goals and things like that are different. Where we would want to live is different.
Right.
Aren't these important things?
Yeah, but all these things are going to they're going to work out. They're going to happen. You're going to know a certain point that, we love each other. We think we're great, but no, it's just not going to work. But you got to trust that you'll find out if your eyes are open, both of you. But looking ahead and fearing what's going to happen just makes for trouble in the present moment, right? These things will become self-evident as long as you guys don't try to ignore it and bending reality to avoid loss, right? That's when people get into trouble.
What's
that?
What if it's
She's so afraid. She's so afraid. Look at her.
I don't think we're meant to be together forever.
God, you came full circle.
I love him so much, and he's so wonderful. But
if you aren't, then enjoy the time you have until you know. And by the way, both of you will know. But you enjoy the time you have. You enjoy your time together. And trust yourself. If it's not going to work out, then you quit. You both quit. You fire each other. Well, something will happen. But you're already thinking too far ahead.
But I'm getting older. That's the thing. I have to pick the right guy and get rid of the one who isn't. So I'm still young enough to trap a new man. This is the problem.
Well, you know what? This is you hang a painting in your attic, or you become a vampire. Just other ways to stay young. No, we're all going to be dead soon. What are you talking about? Which is another reason why you should enjoy this. How long have you guys been dating?
8.5.
Yeah, about 8.5 months.
And he keeps saying that he sees us together, and you're much more confident that we're going to work out.
Don't forget, he's confident to your lack of confidence.
Oh yeah, as soon as I'm like, okay, this is happening, he'll probably be pulling away, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't mean yes, that's true. But keep in mind your anxiety about what will happen is taking you off what you should be doing, and that is paying close attention to him, right? You watch him, you pay attention to him, and not get so caught up in your own thoughts that you aren't there, right? It becomes about your anxiety, and that will run right into his big fear. As an island, it's always about somebody else. It's never about me. So you don't want to do that.
And in all fairness, he is better, I think, at paying attention to me. When I get triggered, that's it. It's all bets are off.
As long as it's equal, as long as you're doing the same work with him, as long as you're paying attention to him, and right?
And I think she does a very good job of paying attention to me. I think sometimes she doesn't see it, but I think she's magnificent.
Good. So she's able to calm you down, Chris. She's able to know how to manage your moods and manage your state. She's good at that.
Yes.
Or getting good. Yeah. Good.
I think as someone who is an island and someone who is a wave, it gets counterintuitive when we both get triggered.
Right.
But I think we do a fairly good job of keeping each other, I guess, for lack of a better word, in check.
Yeah. And sometimes you're going to have to tell her, you have to look in her eyes, and you're going to have to tell her, stop.
Oh, he does do that.
And because she'll spin out of control, you just stop. And that's what you're there for, is to help her stay present. And your job also is to help him if there is any kind of thing about, getting antsy or getting a little trapped feeling, is that you understand that, and you know how to get him to come to you without making him feel that he's going to be held very long. right? You do things because you understand where his fears are and you help him with it. I'm talking to you, Marie.
Yeah. I'm so busy bolting half the time that hasn't come up yet. But like you said, when things become more permanent, that'll probably be something.
Just remember the allergic to hope thing.
Yeah.
Waves, male or females, as soon as they start to hope, they get anxious and sometimes angry because they have had experience that as soon as they feel hopeful, something is going to happen where they're going to be rejected. Something's going to happen that's not good. And so they kind of make it happen because they're anticipating it.
Well, Dr. Tatkin, we have just a few minutes left in the show, and it's been such a pleasure, as always, speaking with you. I love our chats, and again, thank you for your time. Your book is Wired for Love. Sorry. Wired for Love, How Understanding Your Partner's Brain and Attachment Style Can Help You Diffuse Conflict and Build a Secure Relationship. Dr. Tatkin, do you have a favorite exercise in the book that you want to share?
Golly, there's so many. I think the nighttime and morning rituals are really good, that you put each other to bed at night and you wake up together. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. These things take minutes, but they make a big difference in our quality of sleep and also the next day. If you understand that we're creatures that need to be tethered to another person in order to deal with the existential fears of life, you take that seriously, then you can understand why these periods are important. Nighttime, is a big separation. We go unconscious. It's scary for kids. It's not so good for adults too. And waking up in the morning, we need energy to deal with the day. So that you're taking that seriously, as if you had no other time during the week to attend to each other, those are the two most important times, just before going to sleep in the morning. So that's one of my favorite things. And welcome home, that you guys greet each other first when you come home. You don't have kids yet, but the pets, right? That you take that seriously, the eye-to-eye, face-to-face moment when you're coming in from the outside, inside, home, not home, that being together, even for a moment, embracing each other for a moment, holding each other, not letting the other go until you feel that other person relax, is a way of tuning these two different nervous systems. And it makes a difference, complete difference in how the house looks, how the night goes. Everything changes because you did that. People who don't do that often get into fights and without knowing why. Never fight, never talk about emotional things in the car. And if you do, pull over and turn and go face to face.
I mean, that definitely, as far as like re-entering a room, like that's something, or like leaving especially, is something that I have learned thanks to your Brain on Love, and have been managing that a lot better.
Yeah, we used to fight so much because he'd leave the comedy club without saying goodbye.
Yeah.
He'd just disappear.
Right.
And I'd be completely abandoned.
But don't forget, Marie, and this is going to be really important, you're not the only person who has the problem. He may not feel like he needs to say goodbye to you on a personal level, but if you need to make a connection, he does too, even if he does deny it. So you never want to take the position that you're the only person here who has the need for this. Otherwise, it then becomes about you. It's not, right? There is something nice about feeling tethered to another person, even though it's a pain in the ass, because people are a pain in the ass, right? Everyone is. But it keeps you connected in the world. It allows him to be grounded in his work, which is very difficult and highly exposing. To be connected to you helps him. It may feel like, oh, I've got to do this because she doesn't like it when I don't say goodbye. Oh, but you got to remember that it's as important for him as it is for you. You can't sell it as just being good for you. Do you understand, Marie?
Yes.
Okay, that's really important. So yeah. Oh, I wish I were there. I want to give you both a hug. Where are you? Where are you, in Toronto, or where are you? Ontario?
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Oh, okay. Well, someday we'll be in person.
Yeah. You've got to get more packed therapists up this way.
Yeah.
Well, we do. We have in Toronto, and we're moving into another area of Canada, but I don't think it's Vancouver. I'd love to be in Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver's
It'll
fun.
happen. It'll
Yeah.
happen eventually.
All right. Well, we should start wrapping up this show. We've been talking with Dr. Stan Tatkin, the author of Wired for Love, How Understanding Your Partner's Brain and Attachment Style Can Help You Diffuse Conflict and Build a Secure Relationship. And you can get it wherever books are sold. And in January 2016, Wired for Dating. And we both highly recommend Your Brain on Love. It is long. But it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Play it in double speed.
It's full. It's chock full of information, which is why there's so much. And I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you want to add before we wrap up the show, Dr. Tatkin.
I just love you, Marie. You're such a doll, and you guys look great together. And whatever happens between the two of you, remember that the only thing that works in any relationship is one that's secure functioning. Nothing else can work. Whether it's in this life or the next, this relationship or the next, it's the only thing that actually can be counted on to last.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope it wasn't too much about us and our relationship. Like I hope that other people can
I love that.
see it.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's so much fun. And you guys are great.
Oh,
And
thanks,
Chris,
Dr.
I'm going to go on YouTube and try to look you up.
Yeah, do that. Go ahead.
I'm going to do it.
Yay! Okay.
Yay.
Well, I'm just gonna sign off, and Dr. Tatkin, you'll still be there when we end the show. So I just want to send lots and lots of love to you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. YouTube.com/spiritual show. If you're listening to this on the radio, you can comment, ask questions, let us know what you think, and hopefully Dr. Tatkin will be able to come back again sometime, maybe after Wired for Dating is out. So want to send you lots of love. Be well. Namaste.
Namaste.